Good morning, everybody. I am so glad that I present this morning instead of yesterday because I had an opportunity to hear so many really wonderful presentations. I'm focused also on the topic of care, and certainly we can have an interesting conversation on the levels of analysis that we are working at and what our definitions are, but I see a great complementarity between our approaches to what is care. In this presentation, I'm focused upon care as a core competence in the strategic sense. Core competence is what an organization does especially well, and an organization seeks to bundle together various resources as a way to gain core competencies, which can be then further distinguished as distinctive competencies that give them an edge over rivals as a competitive advantage. So this is why the thought of caring as core competence. Caring is everything, caring matters most. Interesting, that was what inspired me to take this approach at the very beginning several years ago. Charles Handy, some of you are familiar with him, wrote an article that I absolutely loved on looking at organizations' profitability and looking beyond profit to see what is our purpose in what we are doing. There must be a purpose to what we do in business beyond simply making a profit. To prosper is simply not enough. So you will see this is a discussion of caring as a strategic act, a caring that strengthens, distinguishes, and sustains an organization, in this case here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a particular organization. One way in which to deepen an understanding of a concept is through qualitative analysis. In this case, it was case analysis, and I chose an organization in particular that some of you may not be familiar with. Those of you who have visited the United States for any length of time, you are probably familiar with it, but please let me tell you something about Goodwill Industries International. Has 82,000 employees in 24 countries. It is a 501c3 public charity. It is a nonprofit organization. Began in Boston, Massachusetts in 1902. An individual, Edgar Helms, hired people to repair and sell donated goods, which were then used, the funds were then used for social causes. So this business model started that many years ago. And since then, there has been the upbuilding of this model to take on the Goodwill identity. There are 215 such entities around the world. I mentioned 24 countries, 215 entities. These entities could be, for example, an organization, autonomous, that is located in San Antonio, Texas, where there are 7 Goodwill establishments and all of the attached operations. Now let me get into a little bit more depth on what a Goodwill might look like. To the it's mostly American. To the American public, Goodwill is a thrift shop, and you look and there's a blue neon sign. It says Goodwill, and that's an indication to people that they can buy used goods, gently used goods, for much less. Now, I know in Great Britain there are the charity shops. It's as a charity shop and the proceeds being used for a good cause. But Goodwill has developed this model quite substantially. So let's imagine you go to a Goodwill thrift shop. The Goodwill is open 7 days a week. It happens in the U.S. and it is always busy, selling all variety of items. And they take items that are donated from the public for various reasons, and the public gets a tax deduction for this activity. Then Goodwill employees will take these goods and they will either they'll repair or clean or other, and then they sell them in a retail space in their facility. They take the proceeds from these sales and they fund various social causes. All right, so a sense of how this organization operates. But please let me say, the Goodwill is much more than their retail stores, which is what most people know them, how they know them. They actually also have commercial services such as cleaning services and other repair services and small manufacturing facilities. So they have commercial services as well, but the social causes are abundant. They have clinics, workshops, centers, job centers, and many more, which I'll get into in a bit more depth in a moment. But here, to get a sense of this organization, how the revenue is brought in. They also have grants, but through the commercial services, through the retail services. It's been quoted every 42 seconds of every business day. Goodwill places someone disadvantaged in a job, permitting them to become independent members of their communities. Since their founding, it's reported they have helped 5 million people, 80% of whom live below the poverty line. Now, Goodwill organization. I have been affiliated with Goodwill for some years now as a business and business economics school professor. And it is through service learning, taking my students for various and sundry projects out in the community, that I have become familiar with this organization. And what I want to do now is describe a little bit more about Goodwill. Now you have a sense of the business of Goodwill. Let me tell you a little bit about key strategic elements of the organization, their vision, all right? It's been around since the early 20th century, but 1941, here's a quote: "Be dissatisfied with your work until every handicapped and unfortunate person in your community has the opportunity to develop to fullest usefulness and enjoy maximum of abundant living." Wow, is that a vision? Every handicapped and unfortunate person in your community. That's amazing. Where vision is a statement of future intended, mission where a business is now, their mission, Goodwill, to enhance dignity, quality of life of individuals, families, communities, to eliminate barriers to opportunity, to help people reach potential through the power of work. Now, values is a fascinating matter, and some of you who study care and values and vision and mission know that values are so fundamental in an organization and so determinative. What are the values by which you live? What are the values by which you operate? Well, Goodwill's historic values, here are several of them. And when I tell you these, when I share these with you, I must say it is much more it is very much sincere when these values are stated. It is not something that they say that it looks good or that it seems to work. It is truly integral to this organization. So several of their historic values. Every individual has value. Work adds meaning and purpose to life. Dignity. There is dignity in all useful occupation. They seek to make opportunity, not charity, development, not dependence. And one other that has recently been honing the infrastructure of Goodwill, in just maybe the last 15 or so years, is they have tried to focus on holistically on the whole family, building stronger families and communities. So you see them trying to understand how they can provide service to the full family as a means of strengthening them, as a means of strengthening the community as well. So I would like to next discuss some of the items that I think have contributed to Goodwill having this very, very good reputation in the United States in particular, very good reputation as a strong nonprofit organization. I will share the financials with you in a moment, but here I would like to say that I think, as I think about it, and as I have explored it, and as I've talked to various CEOs of Goodwills around various parts of the United States, that care is infused throughout all of the key strategic elements in the vision, in the mission, objectives, strategies, in the strategy formulation, in the strategy implementation, which is getting the work done through employees and through volunteers, even in the links between the strategy as formulated and the strategy as implemented through the employees. And I think that is a source of their competitiveness in the quality of their caring. So, several particular aspects of Goodwill that I think are exceptional in this caring focus. It is a mission-driven organization in the spirit of Brinkerhoff, where you have a balance of business needs and human needs, that it is not about the bottom line, but a duality there at least. Best practices in compassion. One philosopher has suggested that the smallest good deed is better than the grandest good intention. Not just feeling, but behavior and consequences. So yesterday, your exploration of caring and compassion here, when I heard you speak, why I was so avid for what you were saying in part was, as we all tried to piece together this matter of care and how it fits as a perhaps even new paradigm of business looking forward to the future. But best practices beyond empathy. As talking about best practices of Goodwill, not a single individual left in need. They have a relentless pursuit of excellence in social outreach. For example, Goodwill of Southern California, it has a number of store operations, not to mention workshops and clinics and so forth. 2/3 of their 1,600 employees have disabilities or other barriers to employment. And anyone here who has a relative who has a handicap, who has had barriers to employment, knows this is a really significant matter. This touches us deeply. Those of us who may have family members who were handicapped know that these individuals have been sidelined for a long time, and how important it is to have the gainful employment. So imagine I think this is what inspires me most deeply in looking at this organization and what it does. For example, 2007, Goodwill of Southern California, they directly served, educated, gave job training placement to 31,878 people. They have 5 youth centers for at-risk youths. They have job clubs. They have training for veterans. They have ESL training. They have GED for high school proficiency classes, 12-step programs, prisoner reentry programs, each of them done with a lot of care, a lot of respect for the dignity of these individuals who perhaps have lost that sense of dignity at one point in their existence, and they come to the attention of Goodwill. So, best practices in caring. Another item is looking at them as a learning community. They, as in the experience, and as in the as Wenger and Levin Wenger might talk, people learning from one another among the employees within the community. They have intranet training, e-learning, mygoodwill.com, community of peers working together. They have dense networks of communities where people are learning from one another. And when you take a look at many of the Goodwills have their own websites, and you will see as one of the fundamental values they have is that we are always learning. We are continuously learning also. All right. Another aspect which I think addresses what Xavier was talking about earlier, this issue of why should we care? Why should individuals care? An economic man. And it is perhaps because of the recognition, maybe it starts in a selfish moment and then it evolves to something else. So selfish man suddenly sees interdependence and realizes that they can take the interdependence and create value from the interdependence and value for themselves. Maybe that's how it all starts. But there interdependence is really quite intriguing. They know no goodwill stands alone. It cannot stand alone, independent of its community. Absolutely. And they see the degree to which their fates are yoked. They're highly synergistic. For example, in San Antonio, you might see a Goodwill working with a hospital system and getting vaccinations if there's a need within a particular community. It could be basic health services within a particular community. There they are, finding a way, adapting themselves to each of their local communities. You're perhaps familiar with Stephen Covey, a fascinating leadership guru, and he says something about interdependence. When I read it, it inspires me again and again. There's so much depth to it. I think I could take it to great depths and for great purpose too. Covey says interdependence that permits geometric increase in productivity for serving, for contribution, for learning, for growth. Interdependence that actually permits geometric increase in productivity. Among us professors, how many are focused on how can we get more productivity out of ourselves, out of our subunits? Through our interdependence, we all know we're interdependent, but do you mean that interdependence would actually create more productivity, an ability to give more, to serve more? So you see that in the matter of goodwill also. Synergistic, definitely win-win in their orientation. For example, with the tax benefits to their donors, both benefiting, and that is their spirit. And interesting to me is that of the monies that they earn from various sources, it is reported up to 97% goes back to the social causes. So some of you who work with nonprofit organizations or you have done fundraisers and you take a look at how much of the fundraising, how much of an event, how much of the expense was in an event versus how much went back to the particular cause, this is a remarkable number. All right, now the triple bottom line. Triple bottom line is a fascinating concept, isn't it? And certainly a lot more work to be done in the matter of triple bottom line, but they do recognize the triple bottom line, and they actually work the triple bottom line quite effectively. For example, let's look at the economic, some fundamental matters of money. For Goodwill, back 2008 fiscal year, $2.16 billion in sales, and with their service contracts, an additional $397.2 million. So you see here, they actually are a profitable establishment. As a nonprofit, that is just remarkable. A nonprofit that found a revenue stream that's reliable. Oh, thank goodness. How many times, those of you associated with nonprofits, the revenue stream dries up because some source is no longer there for you. Here is a very reliable. So this is a beautifully configured model for generating revenue. But take a look at their concerns for the environment, and they are right on top of things. For example, they have green jobs training. They have special training in alternative energies, energy efficiency. They have something else, and this is so U.S. And please, maybe I'll have a conversation with some of you after, and you'll tell me about some of the models in France and other parts that are represented here in this group. But when individuals donate, that gently used clothing, maybe something doesn't fit anymore or it's out of fashion. You donate it, you can donate it even if it has a spot strategically located, because Goodwill has already thought that through. They may not sell it. Through the retail operations, but they use it to build shingles. So repurposing for building shingles. Talk about cradle to cradle, fascinating. Or they actually sell them as rags to developing economies. So they have a very good sense of cradle to cradle in their spirit of innovation there, what they've done with so much that's been donated. And last is social entrepreneurship. They definitely consider themselves a learning lab, and you see it. I'll go to one facility in some city that I'm visiting, and I will see all of these programs, and how fascinating, and all for good social causes, ways in which they have connected themselves to other causes and actually to solve social problems. Now, whoops. last what I would like to do is just briefly focus upon future directions for this discussion. So goodwill has a quality of caring that is integral to their very existence and is one of the biggest reasons why they have an edge over rivals and why they are so strong. For a future study of business purpose, I find the discussion of goodwill is a really interesting one in the MBA programs where you're trying to talk about ethics, social responsibility, conscience, caring, where the professors don't mean to, but many times the professors are so focused on the bottom line that the students are completely focused in that way semester after semester or quarter after quarter. The study of business purpose, and this goes back to our discussion yesterday afternoon on legacy leadership, leaving footprints in the sands of time. So here working on an organization that they are profitable too. How many for-profit organizations are so hung up on the matter of, oh, but we have first, yes, we do. We have first to deal with the issue of our profitability. But this organization took them on together and did it with great strength. But definitely to look for a legacy that we leave also. Another interest I have, competitive advantage through caring. That's a nice one, isn't it? You can't care too much. Developing the quality of your caring and actually having a competitive advantage through caring. We know competitive advantage through caring is a superb item. If you're able to get an edge through the quality of your caring, you have something. Because how many other organizations are going to be able to decode what you did and copy it? It's an interesting matter. It's intangible. It's very difficult to see how it all came together. So that's a very good one, very difficult for others to copy. Not to mention still, unfortunately, rare in this world. The triple bottom line is reported by Goodwill. When you see them, when you read their annual reports, they don't use the term triple bottom line, but they are very triple bottom line in the interconnection between the items of the triple bottom line. I would just love to see more studies that report the triple bottom line. How many studies, cases, and others do you read, just general, where you actually see them fully opening up the triple bottom line? Wouldn't that be a wonderful future to imagine? For sure our children, huh? Some of them may be professors among them, and there they are, and they wrote an article, and it automatically it's already indicated the triple bottom line. What is, not just the bottom line, but opening that up. Ways in which you actually see that organizations do this naturally, and it's a natural part of the discussion. So what I would like to end with, I brought to the fore a discussion of this nonprofit organization as an exemplar in the matter of caring, indicating that you can have an organization of care that is morally courageous, highly business appropriate, highly business model compatible, competitively smart, and sustainability conscious as well. Thank you.